Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Hair of the Werewolf. I'm Lily, and I have with me Chase.
What up?
And we are a paranormal horror podcast that likes telling each other scary stories and basically drink while we do it. So, Chase, what are we drinking today?
Well, it's totally late at night, and we need to get this episode out. And if we drink, we're not going to be able to edit. So we got to be lame-os.
So the answer is water.
But it's super cold, ice cubes, and everything. So at least we're doing it right.
Speak for yourself. My water is warm in my water bottle. It's
All right,
sad
well,
water.
That's awful. I'm drinking super cold, delicious ice water.
Yeah, you are correct. I was planning on having some wine, but I do have to edit later, and that just doesn't seem like a very good combination. I've done it before, but it takes me like twice as long, and I'm pretty sure I leave in a lot of things that I would have otherwise edited, but that's okay.
Like a hiccup here or a couple ums.
I'm just like, we all I'm just gonna leave them all in there. Yeah, so anyway, today we have a couple of stories for you. This time Chase has one, and so do I.
But before we get to the main stories this week, there's a tiny little addition to last week's story. If you hadn't heard last week's episode, I highly recommend you take the time and give it a listen. I had a particularly amazing time with that episode, and I think it's one of those must-listen ones. It's just a good one. It's worth your time. So last week, Lily talked about the Waverly Hills Sanatorium near Louisville, Kentucky. It's one of the few places that takes the whole one of the most haunted places on Earth tag, but it actually makes a compelling argument for why that might actually be true.
Yes.
It is a super haunted place, and it's absolutely freaky. Well, after the episode, I needed to look it up so I could make sure I wrote the title correctly and the description, and I didn't want to misspell things and all that jazz. So while looking it up, Google brought up a rather interesting article, and I felt the information would be a good addition to all the awesome stories that Lily told us about the sanatorium. So if you want to know more about the Waverly Hills, give last episode a listen. But all you need to know in case you didn't and you want to keep going, for this next bit, it is an incredibly run-down and dilapidated building that has all the hallmarks of a haunted hotspot. The place is massive, spooky, and dangerous to be in. It's open for ghost tours and is quite a popular haunted destination. But apparently, some of the people who go there aren't there for the pleasure or curiosity of it all, because sometimes the military comes by.
The military?
Right?
Why?
So apparently back in 2017, Kentucky Guard members did training exercises at Waverly Hills. And according to the article, other law enforcement has done it in the past as well. But on February 7th through 8th of 2017, the 41st Civil Support Team conducted night missions in the decrepit sanatorium. Major Joseph Witt, commander of the unit, said, quote, "That's what we have to do, to train to go into places others don't want to," end quote. And according to the article, the team was tasked with searching for and identifying a simulated biological threat in the 5-story building. So although they claim to not have seen any ghosts during this particular operation, many of the soldiers found it to be incredibly creepy and spooky and a little terrifying. So they also plan on doing future training at this location, so it's only a matter of time before these soldiers start seeing some of them ghosts.
At least that's what they probably are saying. Who knows what they might have heard, or
they didn't want to be
perhaps, yeah, like, do you really want to be the first one to say anything? I don't know. Especially being a soldier, they're supposed to be like, you know, a top tier of like no fear kind of thing.
Exactly. Well, I thought it was kind of interesting because they're like, ooh, a haunted place. What a perfect place to send our military. And I'm like, and what exactly do you plan on sending these people to eventually?
Yeah, right.
So I don't know about you.
Very scary.
But it's probably a good thing to train soldiers in haunted buildings, because if there's one thing Hollywood movies have taught us, it's that when the military is brought in, they're often ill-prepared for whatever supernatural tomfoolery is happening in the movie. So maybe this is prepping them so they're not going to be the Hollywood military. They're going to be the ones that come in and kick some ghost ass.
Yeah, they're like, no matter the situation, ghost or not, be prepared, which
I mean, granted, it's like, you know, the Civil Patrol as opposed to like the Marines. But
well, I mean, yeah, but still, training is training.
Training is training.
They're more trained than I am, I'll tell you that.
Oh, God, I couldn't do any of the stuff these people do.
Right.
But anyway, I just thought that was interesting, where I was like, all right, this haunted place it's a good enough venue and a like messed up enough venue. They're like, this is good for military training.
Right.
That should help persuade some of you who are like, maybe it's worth seeing, maybe it's not. absolutely worth seeing this place.
Yeah, I definitely want to go. I think we should go one day. Kentucky, here we come.
So anyway, once again, if you haven't heard last week's episode, go back and do it. It was a good one. It's really awesome, and that'll make what I just told you even more interesting. So that's all I have. So we can start with the stories now.
Well, thanks for sharing. I don't think I even ran into anything like that when I did my research, although I'm more focused on the building itself, not so much like what it's been doing. But yeah, that is pretty cool.
Well, Google, you know how it like gets information and profiles for you, and so it caters search results to you. I look up a lot of news and stuff, so it's like, ooh, recent news relating to this, boom, and that's why it gave it to me.
Yeah, I guess it's true. That's all right. Well, anyway, I have another story for you today, and I think it's pretty interesting in itself. I haven't done something like this in a while, so I'm pretty excited about it. It's called the Catskills Crone.
The what?
Yeah, I know, same.
Like Catskill or Cat Kills?
Catskills.
Catskills Crone.
Right. So
like an old crone.
Like an old crone. But basically when I first heard this, I'm like, what are these terms doing together?
You know, to be honest, it sounds like a card game because they always had the stupidest names and they were always hard to pronounce. Yeah.
Like what?
I don't know.
Good one.
Now that you put me on the spot. Like, I can think of something on top of my head.
I couldn't think of anything either. I was like, what do you mean?
But, I mean, whenever you play, like, so it's like, hey, have you played this new card game? And it's always got, like, some dumb name, like...
Like Old Maid?
Well, I mean, that's, like, an old established game. I mean, they're called, like, this is called, like, Rumble Butt. And you're like, what?
We need to invent a game now called Rumble Butt, is what is happening.
Only if the play pieces can be beans, because it just makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, no. I don't want to play anymore. Okay. So I actually looked up, obviously this is a haunted object episode. So basically... Oh,
so it's an object.
So it's an object. But first I needed to find out why it was called that. And so the Catskill is a mountain range in New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's located in the southeastern part of the state. And crone, as you kind of mentioned before, is defined as an old woman who is thin and ugly. Which is accurate.
So this is an old, ugly woman mountain.
So this... No, the object is not the mountain itself, but rather a statue that was found within it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The term crone can also have another kind of more supernatural or magical element to it. Very similar, or an example that a lot of times is used is the Baba Yaga, which we did cover.
Baba Yaga.
The Baba Yaga in episode 25. It has other meanings in other contexts, but in this story, it really is referring to an ugly woman. So we're going to stick to that one. So let's start from the beginning. The original story was posted on Reddit under Our Paranormal.
Damn Reddit.
Damn Reddit.
If it weren't for Reddit, we'd have like half the content we do.
Yeah, actually, that's very true. Titled, Me and a Friend Found This Creepy Statue While Hiking and Now Strange Things Are Going On. Anyone know what it is?
So this isn't like an age-old object. This is the new hotness.
This is wait, what?
It's like a new thing. It's like contemporary haunted object.
So yes, as in found recently-ish, if that's what you mean.
And remind me of the date.
Okay, so I haven't sent it yet. Okay.
I was like, you often say the dates and it just goes straight over my head because I don't retain knowledge very well, which it's amazing I even passed college.
Sure.
But okay.
Passed college?
See, and that's why it's even more amazing that I got my degree because I just called it passing college.
I too passed college.
Hey, Chase, how's college? Pass or fail?
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Tomorrow they're going to show up at my door to take my degree back. They're like,
I was like, sir.
This guy's an idiot.
You're like, do you want to donate? Actually, we need more education, apparently. Okay. So this post was brought to us by Wigged Hiker Throwaway. It's spelled weird, but that's how you would pronounce it. Obviously, this person did not want to post it on their main account, which I don't blame them. So here is their story that the first...
They don't want to sully the good name of their other
main account, which is probably like Buttplug23 or something.
Can't believe 22 were taken.
Yeah. There's 22 other ones out there. Okay, so anyway, this was actually posted on January 9th, 2016. So that's the date for you.
Okay.
I'm going to call him now Wigged Hiker from now on.
Wigged Hiker?
Wigged Hiker, like he's wigged out.
I'm just going to imagine a hiker with a big worm wig
like
on.
An ugly wig.
Just big worm.
Big worm wig. Them curlers. So first I'm going to paraphrase because it's kind of a long thing that he had. Wigged Hiker and his friends were out hiking in the Catskills near Sundown Forest. They went a little off the trail and they discovered some caves. As they were exploring, they found a small creepy statue. It had nails going through where the eye sockets would have been and a noose around its neck. They also noticed that someone had recently had a fire in the cave and mentioned it was strange since the cave was off the trail and well hidden. Which I guess I understand what they mean, but they seem to have found it just fine. Anyway.
I'm sensing satanic ritual.
Perhaps. Even though they were a little creeped out by it, the friend decided to take the statue home with him.
Wait, what? Okay, I was imagining a pretty big statue.
Okay, so let me clarify, because I'm just reading the story of how it was written, so at first you're kind of like, okay, what is going on? But you are correct. The statue is small, so it was manageable.
I mean, can we get a rough estimate? Or talking like the size of like a cat?
Okay, so I looked at it. I just Googled pictures because he does provide these.
Oh, so you got to see it.
You do get to see it. He provides pictures in his post as well. So it looks like the size of a regular water bottle, like the one that you would purchase at a store.
Oh, so it's like a little idol
like
or
a
something.
handheld statue. Yeah, exactly. The figure is carved out of wood. It has a carved face with large eye sockets, and within each socket has 3 nails embedded. So
each socket has 3.
So there's 6 total. Yeah. The noose is a small white rope around its neck. The bottom half appears to be like a full-length skirt, so it kind of gives the impression that it might be a woman.
So now I'm getting total voodoo doll vibe.
Yeah, so that is some of the comments that a lot of people replied to, had predicted or at least assumed as well. Now, Wigged Hiker also mentions that he was not interested in even touching the thing because he had always heard stories of devil worshippers going into the woods and performing their rituals and casting spells. So this is already kind of like a lore within those mountains, like, just the creepiness that comes with it. A couple of days later, the friend calls Wigged Hiker and says that he believes the statue is haunted. He claims that the statue has moved on its own, like in different parts of the room. He's constantly smelling strange odors, but can never figure out where it's coming from. He also can't sleep at night because he hears loud banging.
Sounds like he might be playing some Rumble Butt.
Yeah. It's just another round of Rumble Butt.
Don't worry, ain't the idol.
Yeah. Oh, no. Most recently, someone had knocked on his front door. When he went out to check who it was, no one was there. He is now fully convinced that the statue brought in with him a ghost. Now, Wigged Hiker provided pictures, like I said, and you can just look them up online. Now, within just a few hours, the post had a lot of people commenting and guessing where the statue came from. Some said voodoo. Others confirmed it was satanic, but ultimately no one really knew what it was or where it came from. Now, of course, like any good Reddit post, there is an edit, so he provides more information. So now I'm actually going to read directly to his update, although I will say that I corrected a lot of grammar and also kind of deleted some repetitiveness that I thought was irrelevant.
Okay.
So here we go. My friend showed up here at like 11:30 p.m. He's out of his mind scared. I'm going to do my best to remember everything he told me because it was a lot. But long story short, he's sleeping over because something is in his house. We found the statue on Sunday, and like I said, I told him not to take it because it gave me bad vibes. But he took it anyway. He's been an atheist as long as I've known him, so when he told me that something was going on, I thought he was just fucking with me because he knows I watch paranormal shows, and he's always making fun of me for it.
He's an easy target.
An easy target. It started out with only knocks and bangings, but he said that by Wednesday, he started waking up in the middle of the night feeling like someone was watching him. Yeah. This kept happening throughout the week, and every time he'd wake up, he would smell a really strong scent like pond water. He just ignored it until a few days ago when the statue moved from his desk into his living room. He says that every night since Thursday, it has moved into a different room than where he left it. He thought it was just his dog moving it around because it smelled funny, but his dog won't even go near it.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's...
See, that to me, it's always the dogs.
It's always like,
That's why
dogs,
you and me will die
pets.
from something like this, because we don't have dogs.
Yeah.
Or animals, because
We won't know.
You're allergic to all these fuzzy things, so...
Yeah.
We're not gonna get like you're gonna bring home something that you bought at like
Goodwill or
the antique store or whatnot, and totally a dog would have informed us, but it won't happen. We're just gonna start smelling weird stuff and die.
Yeah, just be like, oh, it's the pipes. I don't know what to do. So he says that his dog actually peed in the house 3 nights in a row, which is something she's never done before. So the dog is very scared. Last night, someone knocked on his door at 3 in the morning, but when he went to go open it, there was no one there. His motion lights weren't even on, and there weren't any cars in his driveway. He said that he opened up the door to look outside, and that's when he knew that he made a big mistake. He just felt like he shouldn't have opened the door. So it's almost like maybe he welcomed something in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. At this point, I didn't have any reasons not to believe him because it had gone way beyond a joke, and he actually sounded really, really scared on the phone. He kept telling me that he was going to burn the statue because he knows that something followed him home. Anyway, he stayed up all night and then decided to go to a movie to take his mind off of it. When he got home, he said he felt like everything was fine, but he decided to finally go to bed. This is when it gets super fucked up.
I was like, it's already pretty messed up.
I know, I was like, wait, what?
See, so let me just state where I'm at.
Okay.
There's this huge part, and it's like, okay, this is a Reddit post. The credibility it has is almost to zero.
So we're still at like, okay, it's just Reddit, right?
Yeah, and I've seen, like, you've seen the statue. I haven't seen it. You've seen the statue, and I'm like, yeah, see, he could have created that himself. He's just creating a cool story. What sub was it on again?
Paranormal.
Okay, so I'm like, this is easily could be totally fake. That said, the way they're describing what's happening is actually legitimately freaking me out a little bit.
Ooh,
and
okay.
I'm like, this is a Reddit post. I keep telling myself, no, this is a Reddit post. Doesn't matter. But then I hear something else, and I'm like, okay, it's just good writing. So even if it is fake, this is good writing.
You're welcome. I edit it.
It's good editing too. It's good editing too.
Yeah. A credit to the editor, I think.
All right.
Okay. So anyway, he says he felt that everything was fine and he decided to finally go to bed, and that's when, like I said, things got really fucked up. He says that when he woke up around 10 p.m., it was because his dog was barking like crazy. He said the pond water smell was stronger than ever, and when he went out into the hallway, he saw all of the muddy footprints everywhere.
What?
Yeah.
Are they little tiny footprints?
He says not like shoe prints, but barefoot.
But are they like tiny, like the size of the statue, or are they like... Like, I'm wondering if he's got like a little brownie running around?
The impression I get, they're like full-size human, like adult footprints, yeah.
Because everyone wants those little guys from Willow to come running around.
Willow.
They sound fun. The brownies.
The brownies, yeah, that's right.
They seem like a blast. But anyway, okay, so big old feet, bare feet.
Yes, bare feet.
Okay.
All of his doors and windows were locked and he had done this after someone had knocked on his door, and he freaked out and made sure that everything was locked. Which, by the way, people just should always have their locked doors and windows. So I don't know what he was doing before, but anyway. Sitting in the living room was the fucking statue, which had moved again, and he says that when he started to go near it, he heard someone breathing, and he says, quote, like his grandpa with his tracheotomy, end quote. He pieced the fuck out, and now he and his dog are sleeping in my guest room tonight. I've never seen him scared or this scared, and even started crying. I know that everyone says to not burn it or whatever, so what the fuck do we do? He wants me to go to his house to get the statue tomorrow, but I'm too freaked out to take it back to where we found it because I don't want to see whoever put it there. That's fair. That's fair. So this is edit 2.
Okay.
On the post. He says, sorry I haven't posted. Things got worse yesterday night, so we sent the statue to the guy in the comments today. So far, so good. Thanks to everyone who actually tried to help and didn't just call us a couple of idiots.
Once again, this could still be a lie.
This could still be a lie. Except here I am, holding more pieces of paper. So there's more to the story.
But he might have created another throwaway account, so like, it's me. They sent me the statue.
It's me, the commenter. Oh my god. Yeah, that is possible, except here we go. It would appear this is, like I said, where the story ends, but it turns out that the statue was given to a couple who currently run a traveling museum of the paranormal and occult.
Ooh.
Yeah. Their names are Dana and Greg Newkirk. I learned that they were pretty prolific in the paranormal community. They had a paranormal investigative show called Hellier. You and I have heard of that, remember? I think your sister recommended it, but we haven't really.
You haven't seen it.
No. So the first season was released free on YouTube, but the second season at one point was only streaming on Amazon. It might be on YouTube now, but I'm not sure.
Gotta seek it out.
Yeah. So I found the couple's weekly news site called Week in Weird. The article that they wrote was called, quote, "The Crone of the Catskills. This cursed carving brings visits from a terrifying paranormal entity," end quote. So they talked about how one of their production assistants had stumbled on Wigged Hiker's story on Reddit, which the couple then decided to reach out and provide their contact information in case he needed any help. That same day, they got an email from Danny, which is his real name, the Wigged Hiker guy, and Greg Newkirk says that he gave him advice that he should return the statue where he found it and apologize for stealing it. And so he said also that if Danny and his friend were too scared to do this, then Greg was willing to take it off his hands and see what he can do about it. Now, Danny responded with this email. "Thanks for the advice. Today we went back to my friend's house to get the statue and return it. When we got there, I saw the muddy footprints he was talking about, and the whole place smelled like a dog that just rolled around in the dirt. His dog wouldn't even go into the house. He went to show me where the statue was when he left last night, but it was gone. When we found it, it was in the hallway, and there was a big crack in the wall like it had been thrown there. He swears that he never touched the thing and left it in the living room. We were standing in the hallway talking to this thing when his dog started barking like crazy outside, and when we went to go see what was going on, we both thought that we saw a woman standing in the dark corner of his living room. She was totally naked, really old, and dripping water, and her eyes sort of glowed in the dark. She was hunched over near the shelves. We both freaked out and ran outside. This was in the middle of the day. Whoever it was wasn't there when we went back in. We grabbed the statue and apologized again, wrapped it in a pillowcase, and put it in a box. To answer your questions, I didn't see any jewelry or pictures or anything by the statue, but there were a lot of leaves covering everything. There was some broken glass and a cup near the fire. My friend says he thinks there might have been some hair on it, and he brushed it off without thinking much about it. We don't remember any weird symbols or anything in the cave. There were a lot of twigs piled around the foot of the statue, but that's it. Right now, it's sitting in the trunk of his car at his house. Give me your address and we'll mail it to you tomorrow." So that was like basically the end of the communication. And I think Danny's story basically ends here too. So Dana and Greg received the package a few days later. And sure enough, the statue was still wrapped in the pillowcase. The first thing they noticed when they unwrapped it was that the statue and the nails looked weathered. But the noose looked relatively new. So they were kind of like archiving it and trying to study it, obviously, because they're investigators as well. The couple proceeded to take pictures, and when they were done, they put the statue in their office and went about their day like normal. It wasn't until later that evening, while the couple were in their living room watching a movie, that they heard loud sounds coming from the office. At first, they thought it was the cats, but when they went to go check, they noticed that the door was still locked. And when they looked in the office, he saw that everything looked normal. That is until he looked down and he, as he put it, quote, almost stepped on Jesus, end quote. Apparently there had been a crucifix mounted on the wall, and somehow only the figurine of the crucifix broke off and was thrown across the room. So that's really, really creepy. Well, most of the figurine anyway, because I guess part of his arm was still stuck on the crucifix on the wall. So, but anyway, it was still obviously creepy. Purposely broken off. Yeah. The unsettling part was that the crone, as this is what we're going to call it now, the Catskill Crone. The crone was sitting on the table right under where the crucifix was mounted. I should also mention that the nails were on the cross were missing, so that's kind of weird. After this, the couple placed the crone under 24-hour surveillance and with a motion-activated camera. Nothing was captured on camera until March 2nd, between 3 to 4 a.m. The camera was triggered 3 times. The video is posted on YouTube. You can watch it. Ooh. Yeah. You see the statue move ever so slightly left to right. They also say that the statue had its own light source, which I kind of see what they mean. You have to kind of look at the video. The couple would later learn that the video they posted had an effect on people who watched it. By the way, by the time I learned that this affected viewers. I had already watched it 5 times.
Did it have an effect on you?
No, everything that's wrong with me was before the statue, so don't worry. No, I'm fine. If you are a member, you actually get access to the live feed. So some of the things that people experienced was power outages. Their electronics would freak out. Their eyes would burn. They would have actually strange smells in the house. And one person even claimed to have been visited by the crone itself.
Interesting.
Yeah. So one of the people that said that, like I said, had the subscription or paid access, whatever.
Just watching a live feed.
So they were watching a live feed that night is what she was saying. And then later that night, she dreamt of an old woman whispering in her ear, saying that the nails from the crucifix were fed to Greg while he was sleeping. Then when she woke up, she felt a weight on her back. She then started to feel its limbs sliding on both sides of her body, like it was trying to like cradle her kind of thing, and then eventually disappeared. After reading this, Greg did recall that soon after the crucifix incident, he did experience excruciating stomach pains for weeks, or like a week or something like that. So I don't know. It's kind of a strange coincidence kind of thing.
Did he poop little nails?
Not that he was looking for, no. I don't know if he was actually like trying to figure out what was it, but he didn't know this until much after anyway. So weeks later, Dana called Greg over and asked him, "Why did you stand on the couch after taking a shower?" When he looked at what she was referring to, he saw 2 wet footprints on the couch. He told her it's been hours since he showered, so it could not have been him. In the following weeks, the couple would endure a strong smell of pond water and algae. They also began to feel incredibly paranoid and have a great sense of dread. So now I think like at this point, I mean, whatever you want to believe, but it's no longer just a Reddit post.
It's no longer just a Reddit post.
Right.
People who apparently have some sort of presence in the supernatural community.
Yeah, like this is what they do. They're more investigative. They're trying to find the truth, etc.
So if the Reddit post was a lie, that means these people are also lying.
Yeah, exactly. They're either both lying or, I mean, I don't want to make any assumptions, but...
Or something creepy is happening.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
This sounds more than just a little creepy. This sounds like outright demonic.
It's so demonic. Everything I'm reading, I'm like, a really hateful witch woman, maybe, but I'm pretty sure it's very strong, whatever it is. So after weeks of intense smells, the couple decided to finally talk to the statue directly, which I was a little shocked to hear, to be honest, because I thought at this point they would have talked to it, especially since that's the advice they had given Danny.
Totally.
But anyway, so this is where they are now. Essentially, they told the crone that it needed to respect their house or else it was going to be locked up. They also said that they were willing to help whatever it was that they were going through, maybe whatever, crossover, I'm not sure.
All the horror movies I've seen suggest that this was a really bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, I mean, it was nice of them, but I don't know.
Never supposed to offer to help anything like that.
Right. But they did say to the statue that they were no longer going to tolerate tantrums, as they put it. As soon as Greg finished talking to it, the couple heard rushing water coming from the other side of the house. They ran towards it, but as soon as they entered the hallway, it stopped immediately. Now, right after that, they heard something loud hit the floor in the living room. They went back there and saw that the statue had fallen off the table, I guess it was on the coffee table, and rolled underneath the TV stand. Greg went over to pick up the statue, so as he was crouched down to retrieve it, Dana screamed and ran over to Greg because she had to catch the TV that was about to fall on his head. So they're like, what the F? But they had no time to really process what had just happened because the lights began to flicker, and then they heard 3 loud knocks that resonated from all directions, causing the picture frames to tremble. After this incident, the couple had no choice but to wrap it back in its pillowcase and store it away in a box with a lock. So, when Greg was trying to talk to the statue, it was trying to say, like, look, we can live peacefully, you can be out here, we can help you, blah, 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 or we're going to lock you away. And as you can tell, the statue chose it was not going to comply.
And I'm totally the guy who's like, is there a river nearby?
Just throw it back.
Because I know where this thing can go.
I would just throw it back in the mountains. I'm like, here you go. Like, I don't know what to do with this.
I don't want someone else to find it, but, put it like a weight on it, throw it in there, and it'll either disappear and never be seen again or become a Batman villain. One of the two.
One of the two. Exactly. So, yeah, the Crone is now on the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult is what it's called. So the couple actually does take the artifact with them on this, along with all their other haunted artifacts. The couple do have a strict rule, though, that no one is to touch the Crone. However, they soon realized that the rule was almost pointless because most
Everyone
visitors,
would touch it.
nobody really wants to touch it. Like, it has a natural effect on people where they want to avoid it. So they have this rule.
Except for the guy who sees it in the middle of the woods and goes, you know what I'd like to do?
Exactly.
Take that home.
But I would also like to say that most people that would go to this traveling haunted artifact tour thing are more than likely going to be believers to spend that money. So I don't know.
That's fair to say.
So others who have gone to see this have said that they also have a burning sensation in their eyes the moment they look at it. Others feel fear and anxiety the moment the box is opened. And others even claim to smell the pond water.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I think that's very interesting.
Pond water's not a pleasant smell.
No, and it's, they've described it like it's dirty, it's like algae, it's, we all kind of know what that smells like. Even just the scent of a dirty, wet dog. It's a very similar kind of like yuckiness.
Slightly decomposing.
Yeah, a little gross. The couple have allowed many mediums to examine the statue, and most seem to agree that whatever's attached is not human. Although some do say that it might be, but a lot of them are getting demonic. They also believe that the location of where the statue was found might provide more information. It was likely a place where rituals were performed often. Greg and Dana have since tried to reach out to Danny, but like I said, communication kind of ceased. And especially since it was a throwaway account when they first posted the story, they're not able to really get in contact. Plus, I would also argue that Danny and his friend probably don't want anything to do with it, so they just wouldn't respond anyway.
Yeah, I bet they're ready for their life to go somewhere else.
I'm not even going to be part of this, yeah. So that is the story. That's where it is. It's just traveling about the world,
So,
no touchy.
Would you ever want to go see it?
Yeah, I'd totally go see it.
You're crazy. So,
well, I'm not going to, keep it or steal it or something.
Here's the way I see it. If this whole story is fake, why do I need to see a fake little doll? And if this story is true, why the hell would I want to see something demonically possessed? Either way, I'm not going to win.
It doesn't seem like it totally attaches to someone.
Yeah, but what can I get out of seeing it in person that I couldn't get from the safety of a computer screen?
But you're not safe at a computer screen. It has affected people outside.
I am going to say, even if this is 100% a true story, people getting reactions from watching it, I don't buy one bit.
Okay.
100% not with that. Because there's people out there that if you tell them, hey, if your ear starts itching soon, it means you have cancer. Their ear's going to start itching that night because they're going to manifest it in their mind. Yeah. So, no, I don't trust other people saying something happened to me after I watched it on the screen. Don't believe that.
Well, I mean, some of it is lights flickering. I mean, that's a little different than just,
but if 300 people are watching something, the chances of something like a light just flickering, it happens in our house too on occasion.
No, it doesn't.
It does every now, especially at our last place.
Oh, well, that was just a disaster. That was such an old electrical.
Yeah, so I mean, if we're going to believe that this is real, and it's a very creepy story, so if it's real, it's definitely creepy. I'm still not going to buy the people online, but it's terrifying and I don't want to see it. So, because if it's real, I don't want to see it. If it's fake,
but you still
I don't
want
to
see it. So it's very interesting how you perceive this. Yeah, I don't know. I find it fascinating, and plus, I think it's the whole thing. If the only thing traveling was the Crone, I'd probably be eh. But it has other cool stuff with them that they take, and also it's part of a bigger event. Usually, they go specifically to events where other people are there, blah blah blah.
Like haunted conventions.
Yeah, conventions, I guess, and whatnot. And they do have other artifacts on there that they allow people to touch. So yeah, that's my story.
That's the cat scratch crone.
Cat scratch crone. The Catskills.
Catskills Crone.
Because it's like a place. It's an actual place, I guess. It's just north of the Appalachian Trail.
Oh, okay. So, and the Appalachian Trail's full of plenty of hauntings and true crime stuff. In fact, very unsavory stuff in general.
Yeah, it's got a lot of its own stories of its own, which we did cover. Oh, God, I don't even remember what episode that was.
We covered one story.
No, the Appalachian Trail?
Did you cover it as a general thing, or did you just cover one creepy thing?
Oh, so I covered... it was more like a story thing. I explained what it was, and and all the creepy things that have happened. Just a couple of people's experiences and whatnot. So, yeah. I like that you have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, that was a while ago. We've done a lot of these episodes, and we're going to keep going, so.
Oh, my God. So, anyway, it was a great episode.
It was awesome. Best episode
Best
ever.
episode you remember. Anyway, yeah, so I think right now we're going to take a break because I need more water.
Yeah, you need more tepid water, and I need more ice.
Okie dokie, we're back. I have my water, and Chase, you have my story.
I stole it. So I'm super excited about my story today. It's not UFOs. It's not tropical, and it's not New Mexico. I'm breaking away from tradition because I ran into something rather amazing that caught my attention. Today, I'm doing a cryptid, which to me are possibly the best part of all things horror. Be it folklore, stories, movies, or podunk gift shops in the middle of nowhere, cryptids are the combination of fear and imagination personified in physical form. This particular cryptid is definitely bordering on the true crime end of the spectrum, to be honest, mostly because it's still a mystery.
I'm so curious on what the hell this is.
And to think I only found out about this a few days ago. Actually, I'm going to elaborate later on how I'd heard of this way long ago but didn't know what it was until I heard it again. Today I'm going to tell you the tale of Spring-Heeled Jack, a terrifying man or possibly creature with eyes that glowed red like flames and with claws for hands. It wore white clothing hidden beneath a black cloak, and his head devilish in its composition, although some claim it was a mask or a helmet. So to tell this tale, we must go back to October of 1837 to an area of South London known as Clapham. A servant girl by the name of Mary Stevens was walking across Clapham Common on her way to work when unexpectedly a person or creature lunged at her from a nearby dark alleyway.
Oh, God.
It grabbed her and using its claws tore her clothes and scratched her skin. It also began to rub its face on hers, and
Ew.
some accounts even say it was forcibly kissing her face. Mary soon let out a loud scream, bringing people from around to investigate and forcing the figure to flee. When questioned about the encounter, Mary noted that the figure's touch was, quote, cold and clammy as those of a corpse, end quote. To most people, this story would likely lead to the assumption that it was just a despicable attacker, but this was only the beginning.
Like some gross guy with poor circulation, I guess.
Yeah, just like a creeper.
A creeper.
The following day, another bizarre occurrence would occur, and this time it was right next to Mary Stevens' home. A mysterious figure dashed out into the road, blocking an oncoming carriage, which, in an effort to veer away from impact, caused a terrible crash. The figure was spotted by onlookers who state that it jumped over 9 feet, or nearly 3 meters,
Whoa.
over a wall to escape. Not long after the figure or creature seemingly struck again, only this time it was at a local fair, where a barmaid named Polly Adams was the victim. The attack came from another dark corner, just like the first. Her blouse was ripped off and her abdomen was scratched by his claws.
Damn.
As onlookers rushed to help, the figure once again fled, this time also jumping over a veritable fence.
Okay, this is just his escape tactic.
Yeah, this guy's like obsessed with it. He's like, where's the fence?
Yeah, he's like, I gotta find the fence
Gotta
so I can
jump.
jump, you know.
As the attacks began to mount, the mysterious figure earned the title of Spring-Heeled Jack. Reports presumed it was just a criminal. It wasn't till a few months later, on February 19th of 1838, that the story began to get infinitely more, shall we say, paranormal.
Wait, jumping of fences and paranormal?
Well, jumping really, really tall and clawing people, that's a little weird.
That's true.
But it's about to get way weirder.
Okay, cool.
A young woman by the name of Jane Alsop was living at her father's home. On this particular night, she heard a knocking at her front door. The voice behind the door claimed that it was the police and that, quote, we have caught Spring-Heeled Jack here in the lane, end quote, and that she should bring a light. Only when she opened the door, it was apparent the figure in the doorway was not a police officer. The figure wore a dark black cloak. As she presented the candle to him, his cloak flew open and, according to Jane, quote, presented a most hideous and frightful appearance, end quote. His garments were that of a tight-fitting white oilskin. His eyes were glowing red, and he vomited blue and white flames from his mouth, which was encased in a large helmet, according to Jane. He immediately grabbed her and began to rip and shred her clothing and flesh with his claws. She screamed in agony and even managed to break free for a moment, only to have him pursue her and grab her on the stairs. He then clawed her neck and arms. When all hope seemed lost, Jane's sister arrived on the scene and was able to chase the attacker or creature off.
Wow. I guess he can't take on 2 women. He's like, no, one too many.
He only has enough blue and white vomit flame.
For one.
This story appeared in the Times with the sensational headline, "Outrage on a Young Lady." And at that moment, the tales of Spring-Heeled Jack were known throughout England.
What year was this again? Like you, it totally went over my head.
1838.
Okay, 1838. All right.
A man named Thomas Milbank claimed in a drunken ramble that it was he who was Spring-Heeled Jack. He was arrested, but never convicted of the crime. Reports from that time claim that this was due to Jane Alsop swearing that the creature breathed flames from his mouth, which I find compelling because she easily could have let this man take the blame for it, but she didn't.
Or at the very least, it would have been like, yeah, I would like him off the streets, and that was him. You know what I mean? Like, if it was him, she probably would have known.
Well, she was utterly convinced of the details of her encounter.
Yeah. Although it was wearing a helmet. You say helmet?
So, this might be language of the time.
Yeah.
Some of us might say mask. Some of us might say crazy hat.
Crazy helmet hat. Yeah? No, I don't know.
So I think the idea is the face was obviously under something. There was some sort of...
So, yeah, okay.
occlusion or whatnot. But, I'm at the whimsy of the reports that I get. I can't...
Right, we don't know anything else, so...
Yeah. But she was completely convinced of the paranormal element, so this guy was never convicted and he walked
She's
free.
like, show me your flames, and he had none. So.
I mean, he didn't have claws and he was alive, so his flesh wasn't cold. So,
yeah,
I mean...
it's true.
9 days after the attack on Jane Alsop, he would strike again. Lucy Scales and her sister were walking down Green Dragon Alley, which I have to say is a rather unexpected name for a street anywhere on Earth. But so they were going down Green Dragon Alley.
Green Dragon Alley.
They had just been visiting with their brother. They noticed a tall man wearing a dark cloak carrying a lantern not unlike those that local police would carry. As they neared the figure, in their passing, he lunged forward and spouted blue flames into her face, into Lucy's face. Lucy instantly fell to the ground and began convulsing in spasms and fits.
What the fuck?
Her brother, who had heard the commotion, came running only to find Lucy in a wild fit on the ground with her sister attempting to contain it. These fits would allegedly last for hours. To me, I don't know, it sounds a lot like a seizure.
Well, yeah, but like hours?
Yeah. And the strange figure was nowhere to be found when the brother got there.
So so the sister's attention obviously went to her convulsing sister.
Exactly, on the ground.
Probably didn't see what direction he left, but so she also saw the flames, like this was confirmed both.
So this one didn't have the clawing like the first one did, but we have a second account just a few days later with a woman completely unrelated to the first. The flames once again occurred.
Did the sister ever get out of her fit, like her convulsions, or? I mean, I assume she didn't die, but I don't know.
They did not say.
Okay.
But they do mention something a little bit later that I'm going to get to, and right when I get to that, we'll come back to this and talk about it.
Okay.
Both of these incidents were considered important because, unlike other reports, these were happening in the city and not on the outskirts of London. As awful as this sounds, people were more concerned when it wasn't just faceless peasant folk. Kind of sad. Kind of sad when you realize how many things have never really changed. It's like you could hear something horrible happening, but it only matters when it's getting close to you.
It's like, oh, it's affecting the important people, the rich, the people with power, like who could do something about it.
Yeah, so these last two, which made like headlines in the newspaper, they were happening like in London proper, and people were like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah, these aren't like Hicks in the country. Like,
yeah, that's just what Hicks do. Blue fire and
apparently,
stabbing.
As you know.
Yeah, as long as they just provide the food, we're good.
Oh, man. That sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
So these two incidents also helped cement the visual that would forever be attached to Spring-Heeled Jack, and that is of a cross between a gentleman and the devil. It has been claimed that Spring-Heeled Jack was the result of at least 9 reported attacks, 7 of which were claimed to cause the women too, and I apologize for the misogynist and antiquated language, but it said, quote, lose their senses, end quote.
Oh, sure.
So that was of the first 7 that were attacked. The other 2 were believed to have died.
Oh, whoa.
So this is what I mean by I'm not sure, because I don't know if the girl who spasmed, if she was one of the ones where her senses were lost or if she died. But 2 women are allegedly reported to have died from these attacks.
Okay.
So that means, like, I'm assuming clawed to death, or maybe the seizures. Like, that it was an unpleasantness. Like, it was not just a prankster. 2 people died.
Right. Yeah, that's intense. Okay.
So it's getting a little more interesting now. Once again, we're still bordering, is this something paranormal, or is this a true crime, like, bastard running around the city?
Killing women and apparently scratching the hell out of them. Yeah.
So the people of England began to incorporate tales of Spring-Heeled Jack into their everyday lives, and his mention became a popular feature. Penny Dreadfuls, which were cheap literary magazines with appalling subject matter, at least in relation to the time, were full of stories of Spring-Heeled Jack. Even those cliche puppet shows that you always see in movies, they did exist. And, kids did watch them. They were known as Punch and Judy shows, would often feature a devil figure. Only now, during this time, the devil figure was always referred to as Spring-Heeled Jack. It was kind of becoming a thing in the culture. This is where I think no matter what you think caused this, it starts to transcend into cryptid. Because plays, stories, and other media of the time often would use Jack as a sit-in for demonic or devil characters. And in many ways, it feels a bit like how the public reacted to the serial killer Son of Sam back in the 70s. Or at least the way it was portrayed in the movie Summer of Sam, where kind of like
everyone was very scared to encounter, they could have been the next one or something.
The fear at night was because of Sam. Right. It was no longer just a generic attacker. They weren't worried about a million different people. Everyone was just scared of this one. Sam.
Yeah.
By this point, people began to panic. Sir John Cohen, who was then Lord Mayor of London, was inundated with sightings from all over the city. The reports claimed that a demonic creature was terrorizing the area. Many of the previous reported attributes rung true, such as his fierce claws, burning eyes, and ice-cold touch. Most incredibly was the allegations that the creature was jumping between the rooftops of houses, and that its leaps reached as high as 10 feet in the air. Cohen, in an attempt to calm the masses, claimed that it was likely a group of wealthy troublemakers causing all of this terror, but people were not so easily convinced.
Right.
Spring-Heeled Jack's attacks were distinct from others because the reports would often describe his claws, eyes, and his predisposition to leaping in a rather inhuman way, both in his attacks and retreats from the victims. The authorities responded to these with earnest conviction. The people believed, and so did they. It was said that at one point the Duke of Wellington grabbed his gun, mounted his horse, and ventured out in an effort to kill this fearsome creature. This is the same Duke of Wellington who defeated Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815.
Nice.
Only he was pushing 70 at the time. So at this point,
got it.
It's hard to tell if this is actually true or if this is just rumor or old wives' tale or something like that.
Okay.
But there were more than a few sources I found that said this happened. And it could be because this other story, it may be related or not, but there was another Napoleonic War hero, Admiral Edward Codrington, offered up a reward for the capture of Spring-Heeled Jack too. So there were some pretty important figures in British society at the time who were tied to reacting to this Spring-Heeled Jack.
So, I mean, it was taking a toll on its people, and so it was finally taken seriously as well. So, okay, that's kind of interesting. usually when you hear it, it's like, listen, we're just going to let the people take care of it themselves, or they're full of it. Like, it's not a devil, it's some guy or something.
But now you're at least kind of seeing how this is at least partially encrypted territory. It's a weird one. This is a whole weird story.
Yeah, it is very strange. The blue flames, that still gets me.
It trips me out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, did they really have the technology to make a mask that could do that easily back then if it was fake?
The only thing I keep picturing in my head is like a welder, but I don't know how they would have... I don't know. Like...
I mean, the Industrial Revolution really was in the 1800s, but this is early 1800s. And they'd have to be pretty rich to get all the stuff they... I don't know. So anyway, the sightings continued for many years and helped cement Spring-Heeled Jack in the minds of British folk. These attacks would be reported from all over England and some as far north as Scotland. All of the reports were nearly identical in their portrayal of Jack.
Wow.
And during the 1850s and 60s, the public reacted to it as a continual menace. Less people would be on the streets at night, and even groups of concerned patrons would unite and search the street at night in pursuit of Spring-Heeled Jack. As late as the 1870s, we saw a report from Lincolnshire in which townsfolk allegedly confronted Jack after he was sighted. They opened fire on him only to have him laugh off the wounds and run away, leaping over walls and jumping between roofs.
Okay, well, I mean, I know that, like, he got away, but I am really happy that they didn't just, like, kill some poor dude, like, who kind of resembled him or something, you know? It's like, oh, we got him, and it wasn't him or something.
Some tall guy.
It's just some tall guy.
Tall guy who hadn't, like, cut his nails in a little while because he was poor.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
In 1877, Jack allegedly attacked soldiers at the Aldershot military base. A mysterious figure that matched the description of Jack was seen approaching in a menacing way. He leapt on one of the soldiers, delivering either blows or slaps to his face. Some said blows, some said slaps. Slaps sounds funny to me.
Like something hit their face.
Yeah, there was contact. And another soldier opened fire on him. And Jack, unfazed by the bullet, leapt away, once again at speeds and heights described as inhuman.
That is so weird. It just, to me, seems very comical. Like, he's just, like, bouncing off into the distance. I don't know.
I can't help but I'm picturing something that's kind of like Jack Skellington, because I'm picturing a very lanky, tall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Wow, that's creepy.
So, and if you look at pictures of these, it really is a guy who's dressed in, like, a suit, but he's got, like, a devil face, and fire's always coming out of his mouth and stuff, and he's got claws.
That is, like, the most, like, stereotypical devil description, you know what I mean?
And this might actually be one of the origins of that image of the devil as being a gentleman devil. Because this is weird. Kind of how they started describing as the gentleman devil. I really do wonder if maybe this might be one of the origins of how we see that personification of him wearing a suit, but he's a devil. Like, yeah.
With claws and the horns and just...
It might have completely other origins as well. I'm just saying there's this. Or maybe it had origins before, and people, when they heard about Spring-Heeled Jack,
they solidified that.
They associated them together, and I'm not sure.
Huh.
The last reported sighting, or at least the last one given credence to, was made in Liverpool in 1904. When a figure was seen leaping impossible heights over the rooftops. But the legacy of Spring-Heeled Jack lives on. More than a few sources claim that children were told stories growing up that if they misbehaved, Spring-Heeled Jack would come. And because of his abilities, he could leap to their windows no matter how many stories up they were, and would stare at them with his fiery, burning eyes.
Oh, fuck no. That is such a scary story to say.
He essentially became an alternate boogeyman for children in London for the time in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Like, these kids grew up, and he was, you know, some people said, oh, the boogeyman, but over there they were like, Spring-Heeled Jack, we'll get you.
Nice.
Now, here's when stuff gets a little more interesting. In conclusion, rather.
In conclusion.
So what was Spring-Heeled Jack? Many theories exist, from the supernatural to the more grounded. And some claim he is of supernatural origin, and others believe he is to be from a group of aristocratic pranksters. Was there actually a demonic presence in London, or just a series of attacks and copycats that helped fuel a public panic and mutually shared hysteria? Who knows? But whatever it was, the legend seems to have endured. One book titled Jack the Ripper, Letters from Hell postulates that Spring-Heeled Jack may have played a part in the naming of Jack the Ripper, a name that first appeared in the letters sent to police, but we may never actually know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which actually ties that last bit. So that's just a postulation that, like, because there were a lot of letters sent, that investigators at the time said these are fakes sent by fakes and whatnot, but one of them did apparently signed Spring-Heeled Jack saying taking claim for the kills.
Oh, wow.
And so it's possible that Jack may have been associated with it because it was in the consciousness of the mind of the terror of the streets named Jack. The Jack the Ripper is a completely different, it's a whole can of beans, and it may not actually have anything to do with that. This is just what one author was suggesting.
But you can see how, like, a lot of people, it's like, okay, there's another killer, you know, and then this Spring-Heeled Jack is still out there. Yeah, no, I can totally see the association.
But yeah, it's definitely just this author's theory. I'm not saying that's actually true. We will never cover Jack the Ripper on this because that is 100% true crime.
Right.
Even though it is terrifying and actually super fascinating, I just don't think it's where our podcast is covering. But, so how I found out about Spring-Heeled Jack is, it popped up on my news and I was like, why do I know that name? And it took me a while to remember. There's a video game I played as a kid called Shadow Man, and the very beginning of the game, there's this guy who is giving a monologue, and he's a terrible person and a murderer, and he says, like, am known by many names, and he's listing all these names, and some of the names he lists are Jack the Ripper and Spring-Heeled Jack, and he keeps going, and I remember as a kid going, what the hell is Spring-Heeled Jack mean?
Right.
And then I forgot about it when I saw it online a few days ago. The name rung a bell. It took me a few minutes to go, oh my god, from that game, and that's just where it was. So it
all came back to you.
It's all there.
I had heard of this story, sort of. So, as you know, or like how we just talked about earlier, that once you start researching or like looking up certain things, other things start popping up. And
absolutely,
Spring-Heeled Jack was one of them as far as it. And I did actually, I don't want to say like stored it or put it anywhere, but it is on a list that I had as a possible cryptid to cover in the future. So I'm very excited that I learned about it now. That it was a good story, I should say.
Well, so it probably was just, you know, a guy or a group of guys doing horrible stuff, because it sounds like they might have just been pulling pranks. Maybe one went too far, or a copycat decided to do it and killed people. You don't know. But at the same time, the idea, you can imagine how an entire city was terrified, because there's this idea of this creature that looks kind of like the devil with claws for hands, attacking women, breathing flames, but he's dressed in like gentleman clothes and can jump over giant buildings and between rooftops. It's kind of like this idea that, oh, this thing can attack you and then get away real quick.
Like there's no beating it.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing you can do about it, yeah. And it can appear at any moment, because a lot of the people that were encountering, you know, this creature didn't even know at first. Like it, you know, they were tricked just like a devil would trick anyone. Like they would appear a certain way and then all of a sudden attack. Yeah, that is pretty terrifying.
So part of me thinks because two women saw the breathing flames, one theory that popped in my mind is, I mean, so fireworks existed this. I mean, fireworks has existed for a long time from China, but fireworks being in Europe definitely existed by then.
Yeah.
And so I'm imagining some guy who's wearing a mask to conceal himself, and he's got like fireworks that go off in his thing, and maybe the flash of the fireworks tripped an epileptic seizure.
Right.
In this one girl. And
that wouldn't have otherwise had been triggered.
Wouldn't have otherwise been triggered.
Yeah.
And that it might have been, you know, a bunch of horrible people. And even saying prank makes it sound less than it was, because they were clawing women's flesh and tearing off the boot. I'm gonna say like women hating assholes.
Like they were like a gang. Like they're terrorizing, and and
it just maybe became this whole thing. But whether or not that's where it originated, it got to the point where people were terrified of an actual monster. So at the very least, the public believed in this monster, and kids were raised being terrified of this monster. Regardless of its origin, it is now a monster that exists in their public consciousness, which I think is terrifying but also fascinating.
I would like to know how they managed to leap so high. If it was kind of like okay, let's just imagine it was a super athletic guy who did it, and every time someone told the story again during you know the game of telephone, it was like the guy jumped over like a
wicked 4-foot wall, but then it became a 5-foot wall, and then a 6-foot wall.
And
then maybe at some point when someone got to 15 and didn't believe it, so then it started going back down, and 10 was kind of where it stayed, where it was high enough that people were like, holy crap, that's inhuman, but low enough that people are like, you're a lying sack of poo.
Right.
So maybe that's just what happened.
Yeah. They just had to like calibrate.
And I'd also like to point out, whenever we were in England, a lot of the houses and whatnot, they really are, a lot of them share walls and the roofs are pretty close. It's not unreasonable to think even, back then, someone who was athletic and
could leap between
roofs.
I totally agree.
It's not something you would see normally, so seeing someone doing it
without falling,
it would
or
startle
slipping.
you. But yeah, if you have this guy who can jump over a giant wall, yeah, I could see him running between this is just what he does.
Yeah.
He's a prick.
He sucks.
So anyway, that's my little cryptid, true crime, whatever you want to call it, Spring Hill Jack. It fascinated me because I remembered when I was a kid and playing that game. By the way, it's a super good game. All you gamers out there, it just got remastered and re-released. If you guys are gamers, I highly recommend you play Shadow Man. But if you guys don't play games, ignore everything I just said. But anyway, there we go. That's my story.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, Chates. And yeah, so I think that brings us to the end of our episode. I don't have any updates of any sorts to provide, I guess. There is a chance, although where we're staying currently in our situation, we're going to be moving soon. And I hope I can finally see the stuff that we've had in storage for months again.
Yeah, and so hopefully we can get a sound studio that is set up really nicely. We've been doing really good with our audio quality here.
Yeah, it's actually worked out really well where we are right now. But
bear with us if for some reason we have an episode or two in the next month where the sound quality is a little bit different. It is 100% a temporary thing. Don't judge us.
We're not traveling, but we're in a totally temporary situation. But yeah. So anyway, thank you for listening. And of course, if you guys have any stories that you want us to cover and you have some recommendations, feel free to do so on hotwpodcast@gmail.com. You can also give us some cool personal stories that you might have that we'll include in our next listener story episode.
Which is actually coming up.
It is coming up. I'm very excited about this. Like, so over the moon. I love
We already have
that.
a few friends who've committed to telling us some stories, so we got some good stuff. If you want yours in that episode, you got to get it to us sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and then obviously if the episode comes and goes, then there's always going to be another one, so don't worry. And obviously, like, if something happens to you in the meantime, let us know eventually. Don't feel shy. We'll believe you. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed our episode, and if you guys are just, on your way to work, that's cool. Or if you're just hanging out at home because you had way too much fun the night before, well, don't worry. The best cure for a hangover
is fear.
Bye.